So we're now at the stage of joining all our squares for our cushion. And you can see with this one I've already made that when we add the seams to join, we're going to be using a stitch on the right side to create this nice ridge effect going all the way around. So looking now at the squares, I've now laid them out in the order that you need to have them for the pattern. And you can see that they're now ready to be joined. We begin by doing vertical seams. So I'm going to be starting at the top here and working all the way down here, joining them in pairs. Then I'll do the next vertical seam. And once those are in place, I can then do 2 horizontal seams. It doesn't really matter whether you do horizontal first and then vertical, but I would keep consistent. So I'm going to begin with the vertical. So to do this seam, we're going to begin by picking up the 2 top ones up here, and I want to make sure I don't turn them around because I want to keep that order of colours together. And we're going to start by joining in this top corner, and I'm going to put my hook through the very top stitch. Now it's important when we're using the seam, because we're going to be using a DC double crochet all the way along, to be thinking about the stitches themselves. They're all V's all the way along, and we're going to be putting our hook through just one leg. It's going to be the inner leg of each stitch and not underneath both legs of the stitches. So we're just going to be doing it into one half of the stitch. So let's begin by first of all joining our yarn, and I'm going to use the standing DC technique. So I'm just going to wrap a couple of wraps. Because it's a DC, I don't need to add many wraps onto the hook. So just 1, 2, 3 will be enough. And then I'm just looking for that corner stitch. So I'm looking for this one here. I'm going to just put my hook through one leg. So I'm doing it on the inner leg. And then I'm going to look for the corresponding stitch on the other square. And again, just through the middle, one leg. So you can see I've got 2 loops, one from each square. Now I'm going to do the standing DC. So I put my hook through, bring the yarn through, and this is going to be through just 2 loops, 1, 2, and that's it. That's my standing DC done. I've got a couple of wraps still in place, and I'll drop those once I've done the next stitch. So now I'm holding them together, wrong side together, right side facing out, and I'm just going to work all the way down this seam, and I'm going to each time just go into the inner leg of each stitch. So I'm going to go through there on that side, and then the same place on the other square. So just bring the yarn through 2, and I'm going to get rid of these wraps now, and I'm just going to keep on going. Now because we've got exactly the same stitches on each square, it should be pretty easy to be able to match up both sides. So one leg, so you can see it's just those 2 loops and through. The reason why we only go through one leg is to create a really nice ridge along the top. I'll show you in a moment, without losing the side of the edge as well. So I'll show you that when I've done a few more. So each time I'm just working my way along and just all the time picking up one leg from each side. I'm just working my way down the seam to the opposite corner. You can see I'm lining up, making sure they don't get a little bit wonky, and just lining up each time to make sure I'm in the right place. Square 1 and then square 2 all the way. And let me show you why I'm only going through one leg of each stitch. If I just lay this down, you can see there's the beginning of this seam. So you can see now how neatly it's lining up the corners and these spaces, but the seam itself is working right along the top, but we've also got this nice flat edge on each side of the top seam, which is why it looks so good. So I'm going to just keep on going because I want to get to the corner. And then I'm going to show you how to join it to the next 2 squares. So just keep going stitch by stitch. And I'm coming down to the corner. So again, I'm going into that corner stitch and finding the corresponding one on the other side. And at this stage, you now need to pick up the next 2 from your combination. So these are the next 2 I'm going to be joining onto. So I'm just going to pick those up again, wrong side facing together, right side facing out. And it's important that you don't at this point twist them around, otherwise your pattern will get mixed up. So just keep in the right position. A little bit tricky this bit because you're holding all of them at the same time, but again, just carry on with the same technique, going through that one leg, finding the next one. And for this first one, keep it nice and firm so you get a nice neat join. You will be actually going over this with the horizontal seam, so don't worry too much, and just keep on going exactly the same way, whoops, slipped out there, as you did with the first 2 squares. Let me just do a couple more just to be able to show you. Okay, so now I'll just lay that down, and you can see now how that seam is growing, the vertical seam is coming all the way down, and how the next pair of squares are beginning to be joined. And I do exactly the same then when I come to the next corner to join these 2. And once that full seam is complete, I would do the same technique starting from the top and work all the way down here. Once that's done, the same way again with the horizontal, and the horizontal seam will be the same, but this time of course when we come to the seam, you just jump over the top and keep on going.